we have breaking news, right? Breaking news with Mr. Diddy. As you guys know, Diddy been in the news every week since his arrest, right? I believe mid-September, around that time. And we all know about the freak offs. All know about the baby oil. We all know about Cassie, which is also, I believe, victim one, number one. And we all know about the countless victims that are coming out. They even had a 1 in 100 number for the freak off victims. That's how much damage they're alleging Diddy is doing out here in these streets. We've seen the ups and downs, the bail hearing after bail hearing, bail denial after bail denial. And we also saw how big that bail was. They were prepared to pay $50 million to get out, and they're keeping them. We all seen that. So today, or in the recent past, right? Diddy legal team stated that Sean Diddy legal team contended that, right? That the video that were seized from his properties demonstrated his innocence. In a motion filed in New York federal court, his attorney assert that the footage show consensual sexual interactions between adults, right? So so they're watching the tapes now. They're watching the tapes. They getting a close look. And hopefully they're in an office somewhere, not at home. Freaking lights turned down, music on, shades closed. Hopefully they're not doing all that to watch these freak out videos. But they're watching them. They're watching them, and they finding that things look pretty normal on the video. So they say that it looked like between two adults in a long-term relationship, countering the claim of coercion, violence, and manipulations. So they're saying what they're seeing in these videos, right? What they're seeing in these videos are not matching what the prosecutors are saying happened. That's a win. That's a win for Diddy. What do you guys think? That's a win. And on top of all the weird allegation, I would say loss, right? Diddy been taken with all these allegations and lawsuit after lawsuit. If that's the case, if the videos are not showing people being forced, people being uncomfortable, people being manipulated, if these videos are not showing these things, people are grabbing body parts on their own, taking their clothes off on their own, grabbing drinks, whatever they doing, and the freak offs on their own, Diddy might have a break here. He might have a way. Because from what they're showing us, from what they're telling us, it's Diddy has a long road ahead of him, right? From what they're telling us, it's gonna be a hard case. It's gonna be a very difficult case. If what they're selling us is true, but as Americans in America, we know we have laws, we have processes, so we gonna let the process take place. and let the law uh, uh and lawyers exercise the law and see if it comes to. But we're but before we go off this topic, right? I want to show y'all a little bit about what Diddy been going through, and also the bad news for Diddy today, the new allegation, because we know there's one every week or so. There's gonna be one. There is a babysitter now that's accusing that's accusing Diddy. So apparently, that babysitter was a young girl, 15, 16, around that age group, um, babysitting for Diddy, you know, and his family. And she alleges Diddy and friends. It's like Diddy's always with a couple dudes ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So she's alleging Diddy and her friends assaulted her, and we'll watch the video and you'll get more details on that. We'll get a little bit more details, but shout out to shout out to Law and Crime and obviously Jesse. Let's take a look.
Where an unidentified woman says that she was a 16-year-old babysitter when she was cornered by Combs and two associates and brutally assaulted. I'm going to be taking a closer look at the lawsuit right now and how it compares to other complaints against Sean Combs.
Now, who are those associates? That's what I'm talking about. Diddy always got a couple homeboys around ready and down with the fuckery, man. What kind of friends are those? What kind of friends are those?
Welcome to
What kind of friend are those?
Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so now it's time to talk about this new lawsuit. And we have an anonymous woman who would be in her 40s right now who says that she was just a high schooler working to make a little extra money as a babysitter when she was targeted by Sean Diddy Combs. Now, she, of course, is not the first and likely not the last to file a lawsuit against the music and entertainment mogul, right? As you know, Combs currently locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn, New York, awaiting trial on federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges. Right now, his trial is scheduled to begin on May 5th, 2025. When you think about that, that is just right around the corner. We'll see if that date sticks, but I'll tell you what, we'll actually get a little bit more into the details about that trial timeline in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about this latest lawsuit. So it was filed in New York State Court on Monday. It is a state case, not a federal case. The named defendants are Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment Holding, Inc., doing business.
And you know they're going for everything. They're going for his companies or anything he's involved with as far as his businesses. Himself, and I'm surprised I didn't see his mom in there somewhere, because Diddy is rumored, right, to put a lot of his things in his mother's name. So they're going for it. They're going for everything.
Businesses Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises LLC, and John Doe 1 and John Doe 2. By the way, I have to say, it's always interesting talking about Sean Combs' affiliated companies in these lawsuits, because we can't forget that prosecutors in the Southern District of New York say that Combs was using the employees, the resources, and the influence of his multifaceted business empire to further a criminal enterprise.
That's the face of a freak off right there. If any, you know what I'm saying? Why he always he always acting weird. Grabbing Jay-Z's ass on stage. Always doing suspect dances. Licking his lips like LL Cool J. Allegedly. Oh, like, dude, come on, man. We could have, telling Fabulous, we never party, bro. We party, but we never party. It never went down. It never went down in the freak off. Nah, bro, Diddy wilding.
That is the main allegation in the indictment that he's currently facing. According to the indictment that was handed down by a grand jury back in September, quote, the defendant operated his business, headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles, under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including bad.
This is Brandon Carter. He made $636,500.
We apologize for the commercial. It's YouTube, guys. Come on, get with it.
Enterprises in Combs Global, collectively the Combs businesses. Corporate entities in the Combs businesses included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. And later on in the indictment, the government alleges members and associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The defendant and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprises affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs. Now, to be clear, Combs has always maintained his innocence. He has entered a not guilty plea in federal court, reportedly told his attorneys that he can't wait to fight the allegations in court. That might be one of the reasons why they have been pushing for a trial that is, less than a year after he was arrested. You don't usually see that in a criminal case. And while Combs had previously settled that bombshell lawsuit that was filed against him by Cassandra Ventura, the one that really got the ball rolling on all of these legal actions against him, he has
Yes. And if y'all remember, it all started when Cassie checked his bluff, right? Because if Diddy knew she wasn't bluffing, right? If Diddy understood that, because I believe Diddy thought she was bluffing. Yo, I'm gonna go out, because it also entail, if you're thinking from Diddy's point of view perspective, right? You going and filling out a case will entail you putting all your dirty business out there as well. Okay? Hence these tapes. And from what we're hearing, the tapes that they're reviewing are not from Diddy. Most of them are not even from Diddy or what they got from Diddy's homes. They're from what Cassie gave up. So Cassie was prepared. Cassie was just ready to go after him. You could tell she put a lot of thought into this. And it was clearly for the money, because she didn't go criminal. Obviously, they're picking out things from the Cassie lawsuit. They everything stemmed from that Cassie lawsuit, and they modeled their case after what they read and what they learned from the Cassie lawsuit. So Diddy should have just paid. In conclusion, right? Diddy should have just paid Cassie, not thinking she's bluffing, not taking her kindness, because she seemed like a sweet, kind girl, for a weakness, right? That's probably Diddy's number one mistake, was thinking Cassie is bluffing for whatever reason, right? Because clearly, right, everything started out from, I would say, that case. That's when the feds started rolling out. Because we've heard a bunch of stories about Diddy years after years. But he's never been put in a situation like this before.
Never been found liable for any misconduct in any of these lawsuits. I want to be clear about that. And he and his attorneys have adamantly denied claims of sexual assault in all of these lawsuits. By the way, Totally off topic here, but I got to tell you something that I am very, very excited about. I have been using this men's grooming line for years. It's called Brickle. I really think he was untouchable. He was untouchable. You can't really go after him. But when you see the multitude of lawsuits that are being filed against him and that he's currently behind bars, he's not out on bail, they may feel safe to come forward with their claims now. But nonetheless, she still has to prove that this happened just to win her case.
And that's a good point he's making, right? A lot of people are saying, so why these girls are coming now? Because we're clearly getting the sense of monetary gain, monetary motivation when these people are coming after Diddy. We're getting that sense. All because we saw what Cassie did. Because Cassie did it perfectly. Drop it. Drop it like an album, right? And got paid. Dropped the lawsuit and got paid. Quick. Very quickly. So a lot of people are gonna say, maybe this is why people are coming after Diddy. It's because they want to get paid like Cassie did. So that's the only reason why a lot of people are putting this type of rhetoric on the whole thing. But to his point, to Jesse's point, maybe these people were afraid. Maybe these people thought, who's gonna believe me or who's gonna help me? It's Diddy after all. But wait a minute. After Cassie did that and they saw him get in jail, got arrested, got charged, got arrested, he's having to remain in jail because they're not giving him bail. Maybe these people start feeling, the rest of these people that are coming out now start feeling a little bit more comfortable because clearly he's lost his power. He's lost his footing. So that's a good point. I believe that could be the case. Now, is that the case? We don't know. It's a possibility. But that's a good point to go to that question of why all these people are coming out now. Why not 10 years ago? Why not 15 years ago? Why now? Right?
Let's talk about that because Jane Doe is suing for violation of New York's Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. We've talked about this many times here on Sidebar. This created a look-back window for victims to come forward and file claims even if the statute of limitations would have normally run out and that their claims would have been time-barred. And that's where laws like the Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act comes in. Because as of March 1st, 2023, victims could pursue civil claims for past offenses no matter when they happen. That look-back window closes pretty soon, though. It's set to expire in March of 2025. Now, in her complaint, Jane Doe's attorneys write that, quote, the conduct of defendants, including but not limited to Combs' physical and sexual assaults of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence, and a crime of violence motivated by gender. So in other words, it's done through some animus because she's a woman. And a crime of violence motivated by gender against the plaintiff, as defined by the New York City Gender Motivated Violence Act. In other words, you have to say that this act was motivated because of some sort of animus because she was a female. Now, it says the acts of the co-defendants fall clearly into prescribed behavior by either committing, directing, enabling a conspiracy in the commission of the offending behavior. According to the complaint, Jane Doe grew up in Lower Manhattan. She was 16 years old, living with her
16. So underage, right? Now, we know some places age of consent is 16. A lot of places, or some places are 15, I believe, as well, even lower than that, right? And but I believe New York City is probably is 16 or 17. But still, very young, very very young, not able to make decisions, right? So this painting a picture of, you know, very, very nasty. It's painting Diddy in a weird light. Um, And this girl seemed to be say she was a babysitter. So that's something that could be proved, right? Because you got to pay babysitters, probably have pictures, probably can describe, the places he was living at that time. So, very interesting case. Again, we're not saying it's true, and we're not saying it's it's not true, right? So, what we're saying is we're going to let the law, we're going to let the courts figure it out. But as YouTubers and as citizens, as people that watches these things unfold, we have opinions, right? And my opinion on this is Diddy might be in trouble. Diddy might be in trouble because this is a little close. This is a little too close. That's your babysitter, know your kids, um, and there's probably gonna be proof of this, right?
Her father and stepmother when she started working part-time as a babysitter in a building around the corner. Again, this is back in 2000. One of the women who lived in that building is described in this complaint as, quote, a well-known woman with whom the defendant was in a relationship. Now, Combs had started his meteoric rise to the top of the hip-hop world during the 90s, was a very well-known name at this point, especially in New York City. And the complaint reads, on or about in between late August or early September 2000, when she was 16 years old, just before school started, plaintiff was working as a babysitter in the building where Combs' romantic partner lived. As she left the babysitting job and was exiting the building, the plaintiff came upon Combs, who was in the presence of two male individuals who apparently worked for him.
Okay. So this is unfolding a little different, right? So she wasn't a babysitter for Diddy. Okay. So she was a babysitter in the building that one of Diddy's shorties lived at. Okay. Okay. So now as far as the paperwork and knowing the kids and having receipts and things like that might be it's not in the cards anymore. So let's see what they have, because now this is interesting. So what evidence are we gonna see as the public that this happened? It can't just be her words, right?
Combs was sitting in a car with the door open. Combs engaged her in conversation, asking where she was going so late at night and that it was not safe for her to be walking alone. She advised Combs that she lived around the corner, was familiar with the neighborhood, and would be fine. Combs offered a ride home several times, which she continued to refuse. After much cajoling by Combs, she agreed and got into his car. Getting into Combs' car that day was something plaintiff would come to regret forever. During the ride, plaintiff became scared when they did not drop her off at home as promised. The defendant gave her a drink to, quote, calm her down.
A drink. A drink. My question is, where's Diddy finding all these? These drinks are prepped. Are these drinks like in the car, ready to go? That is crazy to me.
Steady. Combs and his staff, the two male co-defendants, proceeded to a location where she was sexually assaulted by Combs. Now, this is something that has been alleged time and time again against Sean Combs, that he or his associates would use tainted drinks to make the victims compliant. In multiple lawsuits against Combs, alleged victims claim that they had a drink at a party or an audition before starting to feel woozy or sleepy, and these victims say they don't know exactly.
Countless, pretty much all the stories involve a drink. It's almost like that. It's almost like the Bill Cosby case. Where are them drinks coming from?
Exactly what happened to them after that, but they allege, many of them, that they would regain consciousness and they would find Sean Combs sexually assaulting them. Okay? And while a few victims say they were able to fight back, many others say they couldn't control their bodies enough to try to get away.
No way.
Back to Jane Doe, she says when Combs was through with her, they dropped her off. The complaint states she was eventually taken home and left in the lobby of her building by the same driver, John Doe 1 and or John Doe 2, who was present when she was picked up. By the way, one of the reasons that these people might be listed as John Doe 1 and John Doe 2 is because she might not know who these people's names are, but during the course of this litigation, during the course of discovery, those names will be known to her and they might be named as defendants in this.
Those are the friends. The friends that were there. Diddy's freak off friends, always ready to go friends. Those are the John Doe. So they're gonna figure those out as the case go on. Let's see what else they got.
Liable. Now, I'm unsure if that's actually going to work, if it's going to be sufficient, because usually you hold a company liable if the employee or owner was acting within the scope of his employment or was using company resources to commit the offense. You know, they say enabling his behavior, maybe, might work. But I also have to say, yes, this lawsuit, if you read it, is quite bare bones, right? There's not a lot of corroborating information there.
Yeah, so again, as we mentioned, they will go for the companies. They're gonna go for the companies because they know some companies might be like, hey, we don't want the issue here. How we settle this, get the money quick. And obviously the money pool and the money pot is a lot bigger when you also adding a company and also the individual, right? So that's that, right? And also the case, as I mentioned earlier, if that girl had actually worked for Diddy, if it was a babysitter for Diddy and his family, then it would have been a weird case, right? Okay, just like I had just finished saying, this one's probably going to be tough for Diddy. But now that we know, we found out that the girl was just a girl down the street that lived in this around the corner from where Diddy was going to his little girlfriend or one of Diddy's little jump offs. He was just going to the jump off house and bump into her. So the evidence there is not gonna be. It's gonna be a lot of. She said. Now, hopefully, maybe if there's any camera footages, because if they're putting these in the lawsuit, they have to be able to prove these things. So we'll see what they actually have, because from the lawsuit, just describing what happened, I don't know if that's evidence and that's gonna cut it, you know?
Count, though, is very similar to other lawsuits that we've seen that is based, again, primarily on the alleged victim's account. You know, it doesn't list out all of the pieces of evidence, and you don't have to. It's a lower standard to merely file a complaint. You just need to make statements that are sufficiently particular, that make clear what the claims are. They provide the parties notice of what is being alleged, what the elements of the claims are. But I will say, this allegedly happening back in 2000, you may not have all the documentary evidence that you would have in another case, right? The text messages, emails, photos, videos. It may exist during the course of discovery and during the course of this litigation, but it may not. We'll see if there's enough evidence to actually support the claims. But Combs' legal team responded to this.
So, again, we hope that if she's actually a victim, she gets justice. But it happened so long ago. We didn't have cameras all over the streets like we do now. We didn't have social media like we do now. We didn't have a phone that could be able to track her whereabout, Diddy's whereabout. We don't have these technologies back then, right? We didn't have these things back then. So how are they going to prove the case? But also, as Jesse also mentioned, that they don't have to give you everything up front. They just gotta say enough to file a lawsuit. And obviously lawyers and prosecutors, they like to hold certain things um as long as they can, because any information you might give uh out to the public or to the court, the party that's opposite from you can use that and build a case. So Diddy's lawyer did respond, and as I showed you earlier, they also respond to the overall case saying, hey, the videos we have, the evidences we have thus far does not show Diddy doing any of these things. Okay. But we're gonna let this go for now. Um this is gonna be a long case. I mean, they said they're trying to get it done by May, but it's a strong possibility they're gonna push it back because um just like the little Dirk case, it's probably there's probably gonna be a lot of things to go through, a lot of things to decipher, and giving the lawyers enough time to research, counter research, figuring out a case. You understand? And also the prosecutor, obviously. So we'll be watching. We'll be watching. We'll be keeping you guys updated with what's going on.